Get on to talk about commodities, and we have quite a number of issues to deal with. We saw a rally in oil prices over the last couple of days. Then that started tanking early today as markets begin to get a little bit wary how U.S. President Donald Trump will decide. Dinner time, 8 p.m. Nigerian time today, 2 p.m. in Washington. Or East Coast, the president is expected to make some announcements about the Iran nuclear deal. With that unsettle the market, will it push oil prices to the north at $75.57, where we saw the price last. That's still comfortable for Nigeria. Whatever happens today is not likely to tank oil prices much further than where we are. But some rally we're expecting, that's good. But we have quite a lot to chew with Bolanle Olutosin, who is one of the economists and part of the research team, a great team, I must say all the time, from Financial Derivatives Company, whether it is commodities or inflation. They have it all on their thumbs. Good morning.
Morning.
It's good to have you again. Let's get together for this great day and a great week. Dinner time, will you be listening to Donald Trump?
Yeah, of course.
Will you? I'm sure, as an economist, you have to listen. And it's good. 8 o'clock, dinner time. So whatever he says is going to be in the news. Everyone will watch because it's important. He's a big elephant in the room, and he's going to talk about one of the big issues also in the room, which is the Iran nuclear deal, and whether Iran is part of the OPEC+1, oil cutback, whatever. It's all a bit muddled up, as it were. Clear that for us as one of the issues that we need to think about.
Yeah, so far it had rallied oil prices to about 12% higher than what it was in Q1. We've seen that with this nuclear deal, there should be no surprises. It's Trump's nature to kind of keep things in the air, you know, to keep the market shaking and all that.
And keep everyone guessing.
Keep everyone guessing. So it's part of his own strategy, but we don't expect any surprises with it. We expect some changes, but not changes that would actually have dramatic effects on oil prices. But right now, with the uncertainty in the market, we had seen oil prices rally up to about $76 per barrel. But at this point, once he makes a decision on what he wants to do regarding the nuclear deal with Iran and all that, we do not expect oil prices to keep rallying up. So that comes to a suggestion of what Nigeria needs to do, to brace themselves for oil prices, either declining significantly or just marginal declines with oil prices.
We need to, but maybe we all have to thank President Trump for giving us this massive. Oil prices have been jumping since he became the president, and I think that's a matter of fact. But let's leave oil a little bit and go into come a little bit back home and look at the electricity sector, as we got a news this morning from the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, that more will be done with the DISCOs, the power distributors, to make sure we have sustainable electricity. That sounds like music to my ears. Yeah,
well, times without number, we've mentioned a lot of times that, the DISCOs are the problem. Well, they're not the significant problems, but like distribution of electricity within Nigeria has been a key issue that they had not tackled. It's become even more costly for some DISCOs to keep operating. They're not getting the amount of remittances they're supposed to get from, providing electricity to households within the economy. So if the minister is looking at that as a main focus to increase power distribution within Nigeria, then it's a welcome, news that we expect.
He says they're going to work with the DISCOs. Now they can work with the DISCOs, and of course the ministry was also on Twitter yesterday saying, look, the NERC, that's the industry regulator, now has a chairman, a full-time chairman, and that means that the power sector reform agenda is now moving on. Do you see that as one major issue that could also give a flip to the power sector?
Yes, but notwithstanding, I think the key issue now, especially regarding power today at about 3,300 megawatts, is the transmission, not necessarily the transmission, but the generation aspect as well. We've seen that there's been lots of gas constraints and grid constraints. So as much as distribution is an issue, but if we are not able to generate enough energy or enough power to sustain the economy, then distribution plays no significant role. So I think that's the key issue that should be looked at this point before.
Well, distribution is where 180 million Nigerians are.
Well, yes, but if there's no power to generate, then there's no power to distribute. I think that's the key issue here. But notwithstanding, like I mentioned, distribution is a key issue. But as of today, regarding the lower power that we're seeing within the economy, it has to do with generation, which has to do with gas and grid constraints within the economy.
That's a lot of investment the government is making there. But again, well, let's see what happens. Both the entire value chain in the electricity market needs interventions and support all the way down. Perhaps with the exception of the gas producers who are already making money. They're not selling to us, they're selling outside, and they're selling it at higher dollar prices. They look like the only ones who's sitting comfy in the entire conversation because they're just a feedstock.
Well, you always have winners and losers when it comes to, aspects.
In this instance, there are more losers than winners.
Yeah, of course. But I think that's where the government is now, especially now the elections are coming up. They're looking for ways to try and solidify their position within the economy to get, good favor from some of the households.
From the electorate.
Yeah.
It says a lot of music to the ears now when you look at the news almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Let's move it on a bit. If you look at what is positive and what is not so, if you raise the conversation around the credit market, what the commercial banking sector is doing, the central bank says the banks are lending less to the private sector, okay, but we have the PMI on a trajectory, right, to the north.
Yeah.
And you have the twice weekly central bank intervention. Yesterday was almost $400 million. That's a lot of money on the table by whatever exchange rate you use. So why is this still a major problem here for consumer goods producers, despite the fact that central bank is pumping so much money, but the banks are not lending?
Well, with the report released by the NBS, they mentioned that, commercial lending to the private sector has actually declined to about 15.6 trillion naira. There's a positive correlation with increased credit and increased output. Once there's no credit or reduced credit within the economy, then you expect that, outputs would decline because some of these manufacturers actually borrow to invest in their businesses and grow their businesses. So what we've seen is that it could possibly be that some of these manufacturers are not even borrowing as much, which is less likely, but it's another angle we need to, consider as well. The fact that maybe these manufacturers are not borrowing enough and maybe that's why the commercial banks are lending less. But that's just one angle.
They're not approaching the banks.
Exactly.
So if you don't ask,
then there's no point.
Then you don't get.
Yeah, and you also have the case of, with the special arrangement with the agricultural sector, you have the cases where some people, would go in and say we need to borrow money to invest in agriculture, but they don't. They use that disguise to, borrow and then don't actually use it to invest in agriculture.
They divert it.
Exactly. So that's probably another reason why some of these commercial banks are actually reducing their, lending to some of these sectors. But notwithstanding, if you have a situation where credit is reducing within the economy, then we expect output to decline, which was revealed with the PMI numbers that came in, which is a leading indicator of some of these.